All right, welcome back, everyone. We are back from closed session. We came into open session today, and no action was taken in closed session. And so we'd love for our audience members to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance today.
You're a special subject. Yeah. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right. Welcome back, everyone. We have public comment.
Yes, we have one.
Okay.
Ms. Barrett. Public comment?
Yeah.
Oh, you're up.
You may.
Oh.
Yeah.
Good evening, trustees, district staff, and community visitors. My name is Kathy Barrett, and I'm president of the Friends of Orinda Nature Area. I'm here tonight to bring your attention to the fact that FONA, Friends of Orinda Nature Area, proposed assistance and funds to the trustees 2 months ago, but have never received a response. And so I wanted to bring that to your attention. And it all started with a special meeting on March 21st. And following that meeting, all of the gates were locked to the Wagner Ranch garden. Not the Wagner Ranch itself, but the garden area where it's locked. And the citizen science experiments that students have been working on for months and months were all terminated, and the extensive grant-funded equipment was inaccessible to the program. And 4 bins of compost worms perished, and all of the flowers in the students' beds also died. The OUSD's decision to close the nature area garden to everyone was met with dismay by the students, the parents, volunteers, and educators. And it's the stimulus that brought our proposal to you, which we emailed to you on April 3rd. And we proposed assistance, and I'm here today to ask you to consider that proposal, and I'll go over it again. Before the closure, FONA had been allowed access on Sundays to the nature area garden that we used for citizen science students. This year they're 11. The Eagle Scout projects who were making many of these beds for the citizen scientist students. And also we provided opportunities for middle school and high school students to earn public service credits for working in the garden. FONA proposes to help OUSD with the safe removal of the Cynthia Crespi greenhouse. We can do that in one of 2 ways. Option 1, FONA would assemble knowledgeable volunteers with whom we've worked before, such as the Rotary volunteers who have construction experience. FONA would complete the OUSD permit process, and our insurance would cover all liability for the project. Option 2, which we think you'll see more favorably, FONA would pay 80% of the cost to have the greenhouse removed by an OUSD approved contractor. FONA would write a check to OUSD once the greenhouse has been removed and FONA has been regranted Sunday access to the garden. We hope you will find one of these 2 options acceptable. Our goal is to be allowed at least the same Sunday access to the nature area garden as before by the start of school. This would allow our citizen science high school and middle school students to continue their research and their activities. We are ready and highly motivated to work with you, and we remain grateful to you for your support of the nature area. We look forward to your response and to seeing you at the next OUSD board meeting. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kathy.
Did you have
I'm sorry.
the handouts you got?
I already have it.
Yeah, they were distributed. So you all have the full proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a resolution, resolution 2532 in support of LGBTQIA+ Pride Month.
Yes. So staff is presenting a resolution 2532 in support of LGBTQIA+ Pride Month, which is June 2025. And we would ask the board to read the resolution in support of the month.
Great, thank you. We will. And Benita, would you like to start us off?
Whereas public education serves families who represent great diversity and is our shared responsibility to ensure that everyone in each of our school communities is valued and respected, regardless of gender identity, gender expression, and sexual orientation. And
Whereas it is the policy of the Orinda Union School District that all persons, including those who are lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer, LGBTQ+, have an equal and non-discriminatory opportunity to a quality public education experience. And
Whereas education regarding LGBTQIA+ issues increases understanding and cultivates respect and appreciation for LGBTQIA+ students, staff, and the LGBTQIA+ community. And
whereas the mission of the Orinda Union School District is to be a learning community that inspires, engages, and supports all students. And
whereas the district is fully committed to extending a sense of belonging to families in the district, as well as students, teachers, and staff, so everyone is welcome equally to our campuses. And
whereas LGBTQIA+ youth are at an elevated risk for bullying and violence victimization, mental health problems, suicide, drug and alcohol use, and poor performance in school. And
whereas the month of June is a time to celebrate and highlight the identities and contributions of the LGBTQIA+ community and foster dialogue to promote healthy, safe, and inclusive school climates and communities for all. And
whereas by recognizing Pride Month, we support the Orinda Union School District policies, practices, and curricula that honor and respect LGBTQIA+ students, staff, families, and the broader community. And
now, therefore, be it resolved that the Orinda Union School District recognizes the month of June 2025 as LGBTQIA+ Pride Month and shall celebrate all the LGBTQIA+ community to inspire equity, create alliances, celebrate diversity, and establish a safe environment in our schools and community for all LGBTQIA+ students, staff, and community members.
So thank you so much for reading that. And prior to the board taking possible action, I just want to say that Sarah has a group working this week, a group of staff members who are working on all of our Heritage Months, that are resolutions that we've been passing throughout the year to develop curriculum and supplementary materials that will support all of the months, so that it is embedded throughout the school year, not just the month that our students are not in school right now, but we want to make a statement that it is we do believe in a community of belonging, but we do embed materials throughout the year to show that we support all of our students. And and we do have public comment.
we do have public comment. Is there board discussion before public comment?
No, thank you. Yeah, thanks for bringing this.
Yes, thank you. And your public comment, Mr. Shannon?
Good evening, esteemed board members, staff, faculty, community members. I want to say I really appreciate the resolution, but beyond the resolution, we have a rich history here in Orinda. Well, I've been here working with faculty at UC Berkeley. We had 3 years where we explored curriculum and we purchased books for students as read alouds, showed teachers how to, bring this into their classroom. And I'm just really proud that we stand for the inclusivity of all students. Safety of every one of our students is important. And we know that our LGBTQ+IA students, families, they're of many different ethnicities and they have many different backgrounds. So it really is inclusive of all of our students. It's a part of who we are. And it's just so important. I know in the past I've said that Pride Month is in June. It was by design that it was. It comes from the Stonewall riots they had in 1969. And they chose June because that's a month that's open for families to enjoy the festivities of celebrating Pride. It happens to be a month, though, that we're not in school. And so there is consideration. I'll be in the group this week under the direction of Sarah Costa-Landry to kind of look at would there be an alternative month. October is Gay Pride History Month. So that's always an option. San Francisco does it in April because that's before the mad rush to the end of the school year. So, I mean, there's other considerations. For me, I think it's important that we recognize that it's embedded in our curriculum. We adopted a history social science framework, or we have the framework that guided our selection of a curriculum that does include it. And so it's throughout the year. So I'm proud to say that we already have it embedded. We have students that do happen to come out or are already out when they come to our district, families that are same-sex parents of students in our schools. And we just want them to know that they're safe here. We want them to be included in all the things that we offer for it to be a safe place. I didn't have that when I was growing up. And I'm just so proud, and others who happen to be gay staff, that this is a safe place to come and work. And it's a safe place for our families. That inclusivity is our strength. It's what defines, it's one of the things that define our district as a place for people to come, because we make sure that all our kids are recognized, all our families are recognized. So I'm super proud of the direction of Superintendent Glimmy, Dr. Glimmy, if I may add that in. You really have the foresight. She came in not afraid to speak the truth, that everybody needs to feel like this is a place for them and they see themselves reflected. It's not just something that we talk about in the boardroom. It's reflected in the classroom. It's reflected in our conversations. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Charles.
Yes.
This item is up for action. Do we have any additional or discussion? If not, if I could have a motion, please.
This is Hillary. I move that the board approve resolution 25-32 in support of LGBTQIA+ Pride Month.
Katie, I second.
Trustee Mantois. Aye. Trustee Weiner.
Aye.
Trustee Phillips.
Aye.
Vice President Shogun.
Aye.
President Collins Coleman.
Aye.
Motion carries.
I'll just say, the board will be considering the calendar of resolutions when we meet again at the start of the school year. So we can bring back the discussion around which month and resolutions and when to calendar and what can be discussed at that time. So, yeah. So thank you for bringing that up.
Citizen Bond Oversight Committee, annual report.
Yes, so we have, it looks like 2 members of the committee of our Citizens Bond Oversight Committee, or CBOC, or CBOC. It seems like it's so late in the year that we hear from our committees, but last time we heard from our Parcel Tax Oversight Committee, and this time we're hearing from our CBOC Oversight Committee. And it is not a typo, but it is a 23-24 because they actually take the year to then look back in that prior year. And the reason it takes some time, I mean, the audit report doesn't, come until February, and you have to look for the audit reports, and then the subcommittee meets actually several times. So it does actually take quite a bit of time for them to look back at the year prior or year in review. So I just want to say thank you on behalf of the staff. Parcel tax is a very straightforward expenditures in our district here because it pays for staff salaries. So it's much more straightforward than the CBOC, which right now is a very busy time of a lot of expenditures, and 23-24 years was a busy year. So, and, just thanks to Mika for so many reports and so many spreadsheets that were provided. But with that, if I think it's Brad or both of you, we've got 2 men and a dog.
He's my support person.
Yeah.
And this is the support animal.
Never, I don't know, in my tenure here, we have not had a dog at the presentation, so that's very exciting.
So you took the thunder out of my first
Oh, I'm
statement,
so sorry.
which is a reminder that this is a year old. So all of what we're doing for the annual reports is a year old. And just a reminder that all the bond money has now been issued, and about 54% of it has been spent. This is as of June 2024. So most of it is a lot more has been spent now, and we're going through the middle of next year. So one part of our duties is to review the expenditures. We rely on the external auditor to determine expenditure validity, allowability, and accuracy, and that no salaries or benefits are charged to the measures. That's in the bond language itself. And in our review, we did not find anything that questioned our reliance on the external auditor for that. The other part of our duties is to create this annual report and to inform the public of kind of what went on that year. And so that's what the rest of the annual report does, is it's a kind of a notice to the public about this is what's going on in terms that they might find easier to understand. In this report, we present key information that the CBOC committee feels will be beneficial for the public to understand where the bond funds are spent and how. The district has part of its website dedicated to these measures in the CBOC. This is really helpful. We thank the district for putting the website together. We did note a couple changes to be made, and those are in the works. Thank you to all you trustees for the job that you do, and thank you for reading the annual report. And thank you to OUSD staff for all of your assistance in helping us to be able to get the information together, to prepare the report, to go out to the job sites and see what is actually going on there, so we can see it firsthand, things like that. And I want to thank all the other members of the committee for all their efforts throughout this and past years. And special thanks to Michael and Martin Census, who were the other members of the annual report subcommittee. So that's the report. Are there any questions on the report? I was not going to go through.
Oh, I was like,
the details of the
what page am I on?
I think everybody has a chance to look at it and pre-read, so forth. So
Pretty comprehensive. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate all the work that goes into doing this, making sure we're on track, so.
I'm curious, are board members on there for how many years? On the committee?
So on the committee, it's 2 or 3 year terms and up to 3 terms.
Okay.
So
So
I
is it-
think I'm rolling off this year, which is 7 years. 7 years from me. The end of the middle of next year.
I think it's important to have someone who's on there, right, consistently, or
Yes.
to pass on the knowledge.
And we have original members, 2 original members from the start, yes.
Yep.
So in their third
That's great commitment.
term. Yeah, yes.
Yeah, 2 of us 7 years, and then maybe
Couple of them that are in their
couple or 5
starting their
years or
third,
something.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
So, yeah.
And last year, we actually had almost a year and a half with only 5 members. We could not find members of but we have been, thanks to people like Michael, who have stepped up, and Martin and Dr. Rashid, who have stepped up and have a full committee. So that's great, thank you. All right, well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Really appreciate all the hard work. There's been a lot of hours, and they meet here. So, yeah, thank you. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
This item is on for action. Is there any public comment?
There's no public comment.
All right. And this is Hillary. I move that the board accept the 2023-2024 Citizens Bond Oversight Committee annual report.
This is Katie, I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you
Okay.
again.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
You're welcome to stay or. Good to go. Yeah, really. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Literacy screener adoption. Sarah.
Okay, I am going to project my screen. Just pass this one.
There we are. Okay, so I am very excited to talk with you all tonight about our some literacy shifts, really centered around, tonight at least the talk is around a recommendation to adopt a screener. So we'll jump right into why we're doing this right now. The reason is because of Senate Bill 114, which was passed in 2023. And tonight we'll talk about the purpose of screening, the regulations or guidelines around administering it. What are the guidelines around family involvement and communication? And then what do we do with assessment results? All of these components are things we need to consider when implementing the screener. But first, let's talk a little bit about Senate Bill 114. Here, I kind of want to point out that it was a really great thing to have this passed. Insofar as we've known in the United States that our reading scores, our third graders are not reading proficiently overall. And so states are in different stages of implementation. Thankfully, California made this happen in 2023. And really, actually the unhighlighted text here, but dyslexia is the most common learning disability. However, many pupils on the dyslexia spectrum struggle every day to read without proper identification. And screening of all of our students helps to ensure that we are able to properly identify students who have dyslexia or at risk of reading difficulty and need further support. And so what this bill talks about is the purpose of screening, so I'll go over that. So the whole idea is early identification. The bill mandates screening in grades K, 1, and 2. We'll talk about the implications of that for Orinda in just a minute. And it is used as a part of a broader process that evaluates student needs and progress. It should be used, this data should be used to inform individualized instruction, to measure students' progress, identify their learning needs, and then enable parents and educators to discuss those needs in an informed way and respond to them. And then we are obligated and want to provide assessments for both English speaking and non-English speaking students in their primary language whenever that is possible. There are some difficulties, as you can imagine, around that, but thankfully the bill and the guidelines give us some guidance. So I love this as a metaphor. You may have, I think I've shared it with you all before, but the idea is like this is a safety net. When we screen all students beginning, middle, and end of year, our holes in our safety net are just more secure. Less kids are going to be falling through the cracks. Administering the screener. So we are required to adopt a screener from the list. It has to be administered by a trained school employee. And if a student enrolls after the screener has been administered, they need to be assessed within 45 calendar days unless the results from the previous district are provided to us. And if a student does not speak sufficient English, then we are to assess in their primary language. Often though, an assessment is not available in their primary language. So then we have a process of evaluating any data that we do have, studying that data to assess for reading difficulty and analyzing their developmental history to make an informed decision about what type of support that student might need. We are to determine when in the year to screen. For us, that will be 3 times a year, beginning, middle, and end. We also want to consider whether students have received sufficient instruction and foundational skills to support a valid assessment. For example, in kindergarten, oftentimes those beginning of the year data that you collect for a brand new student who's not used to being assessed may not always be as accurate. So they do ask us to carefully consider when to administer the screener. We will be administering the screener beginning, middle, and end of year. So even if that beginning of the year data isn't super accurate for that student, we know that we will pick them up in the later increments when we assess. And then students can be exempted, although I do not recommend it. Students can be exempted if they have a current diagnosis of a reading difficulty disorder or other disability, or if they are eligible for special education and related services or have a 504 plan, or if the student is in the process of being assessed. However, we may not recommend it to even exempt a student in these situations because the screening data does provide us really valuable data around student growth and progress, which can be helpful for students on 504s, for students already with reading difficulties, and students on IEPs.
And sorry, you probably said this, but just to double check, LEAs are local education authorities?
Yes.
Districts, it's the districts.
Yeah. And then I always like to talk about things in the terms of our multi-tiered system of support. And if you look at our pyramid here, you'll see universal screening is really that foundation under which all of our tier supports come from. So we ideally would be screening in academics, reading and math, and also social emotional as well. That's an area of growth for us. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. I just didn't want to share that we will be, this fits in already to our system for instruction and learning. And then there are going to be key pieces that we want to pay attention to around how we communicate with families. So we need to provide parents and guardians with information about screening and instructions, how to opt out no later than 15 days before we assess. So we're in the process right now of figuring out when that might be for a beginning of the year assessment. We will probably plan on including materials for notification of the opt-out in the update process on the annual enrollment. I believe that we call it here, annual verification of data. And then LEAs are encouraged to provide information as part of back to school materials. And we do have a plan to do that. We will be providing information to families through universal slides that I will provide to teachers to show at back to school night. We'll also do some parent information night, which we can talk about in a little bit as well.
Do you often have a lot of families that opt out?
Not in my,
Okay.
no, and we might have families inquire because they know that maybe their student has an accommodation for additional time during testing. And these screeners are timed because fluency is such an important indicator for reading proficiency. And so when those parents inquire, we explain to them the value of this data, how it's not going to be used to like a mark against the student. It's not going to be recorded other than a data point from which we can monitor their progress. And the time piece is actually very helpful to us because it indicates to us how far a student is behind. And that's important that we know that so that we can help their child. And then results from the assessment have to be made available no later than 45 calendar days after we administer. And thankfully, the recommendation for the product we're going to recommend to you to adopt includes some really great materials to inform families.
Is it is there an online access or do you have to be physical? Okay.
Yeah, it's going to be there's both those components. There's an online tool that parents will have access to, and there's also a letter that every child can get and go home with them. All right. So one of the key things is once we get assessment results and we know students are behind, what are we doing with that data, right? If we don't do something with that, we're really missing the most important thing here. And so we want to point out, though, that this screener does not diagnose a disability. That process still lives in the special education world formal assessment process. This is a indicator of a potential disability that then would need to be explored and through a response to intervention system and our SRT process at the school sites led by those intervention teams. Similarly, cannot establish eligibility for 504. And then we should be providing supports and services if they're identified as being at risk. And all of these things are great things. So a lot of them we do already where we have evidence-based literacy instruction, focus on the student's need, progress monitoring. Our tool does have a progress monitoring embedded into it. So that's great. It doesn't just include assessments for beginning, middle, and end of year. There are also progress monitoring assessments that we can administer to students who have been indicated as being far behind. And then we need early intervention in our regular general education program. That piece there speaks to our MTSS and one-on-one small group tutoring. Again, this is something we provide already, and further evaluation or diagnostic assessment. And those diagnostic assessments I'll talk about in just a little bit too, because that's an area we want to provide more resources to teachers around as well. It's a goal in curriculum and instruction. Okay, I've been talking really fast and a lot, so I'll pause right there. Any questions? And feel free to obviously chime in. So funding. So we know the state of California asked us to implement things, and there is funding, thankfully, tied to this. However, the funding is really centered around providing professional development. So we will be using 100% of the funding to provide professional development, which includes training for teachers, Also includes release days for teachers to be able to join us for training, right? For that what doesn't fit in those August PD days. The funding does not cover, however, the actual cost of the product, which is a yearly cost. So, yes. The good thing is though, we are screening already in K1. So in a way, we're already paying for a smaller portion of this.
Sorry, what is the cost of the product?
The cost of our product, I think it's under another agenda item. It's approximately for our K-5 subscription for 2 years, I believe it's around $22,000. And then
22,554. Thank you.
Thank you. So here's a timeline. It's been a really tight timeline, actually. And so I wanted to point out that because we in January and May of 2024, there was the state panel was selected in order to select the screeners. Every district is required to select from the approved list of screeners. This RDRS here stands for reading difficulty, the screener. So they panel selected just 4 approved screeners in December of 2024. So just this past December. Every single district is required to select one of those 4. So you can imagine the impact on those 4 publishers of the product with over, I believe, it's between 900 and 1,000 districts, right, in California. So that's been challenging. And then they give us until the month of June in order to adopt. So it's a really short timeline for us to engage with vendors, set up trainings for our teachers, have teachers pilot the actual products, and then come together and make a decision. And so thankfully we were able to do it. We had an amazing team. And so today we will make a recommendation. So should you approve of that recommendation, then we will begin our screening next school year. All right, so our approach is going to be screening in all grades K through 5. TK is not appropriate to screen for reading in. Kindergarten is the very first grade. And the reason is that because you really do want consistency year to year to view the growth from a child from the beginning to the end of the year, and then again, year after year. And when you don't have a consistent assessment tool that you're using for that, that's where you start to get those bigger holes in your safety net, because we can't see data for a student over time. And so it is actually super helpful for us to have the same data source grades K through 5. And there's also another shift alongside this one, which is our shift for science of reading-based instructional practices. We are moving away from the F&P or Fountas and Pinnell assessment. It is highly unreliable, not very valid, although we've been relying on it, and not the only district, with the majority of districts across the nation actually, to inform teachers, students, and families about their students' reading level. Unfortunately, it's no longer something that we can feel comfortable tying ourselves to. We do need to make a switch in a reading assessment for the upper grades. And so it's actually great timing, because we are forced to select a product K2, and now we're gonna do something for 3rd, 4th, and 5th at a time when we're all ready to make that change away from the F&P.
And just for the experience in the classroom, so the F&P is the one where you get like a letter each book,
Exactly.
right? The books that your kids are on. So you also get like, at least at like kindergarten, how many letters do they know? How many, uppercase, lowercase, writing?
Mm-hmm.
Does it in the report card section, like, does this replace all of that, or just the F&P analysis that they get once a year right now?
Just the F&P.
Okay, so we'll still be doing the other checks on
Mhm.
reading, just basically letter recognition.
Yes, and reporting that out in the report.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, that information is really important too, right? Knowing all the letters a student might know or not, which is not information you get from a screener.
And so is this something we would also consider putting into the report cards as just another way for the parent, make sure the parents are getting the information?
Yes, that is something that we're considering over the summer. That's something we'd like to make a decision about when we look at the revisions of our report cards. Right, I think over the past This year, and I could not being here last year, you guys could correct me if I'm wrong, but we already removed the F&P letter from the majority of report cards at the majority of grade levels in schools.
Kevin, I can tell you there's some places where there's inconsistent reporting without clear explanation.
So there's already been this slow move away from, let's not report out this F&P letter anymore. I think the challenge for districts comes when you remove the indicator of what students' reading progress is that the families are familiar with, and you don't replace it with something.
Right.
And so that's going to be critical here, is that we are going to be reporting to families where the student is at in their reading ability, whether they're behind, so let me start again, really far behind, a little behind, on track, or above. So one of 4 indicators. So not one of 26 indicators anymore, like the 26 letters, but it will be one of 4 indicators for where that child is supposed to be at based on that grade level at that time in the school year.
So then in terms of reading materials that you might offer someone who is above versus in the mid, like at grade level, because with the letters, there was all these different, like you had different steps. So how does that work?
Yeah.
In terms of how do you assign students to write, like material to read?
Great question. And that's a lot of the learning we need to do as a staff at the beginning of the year. And we're going to be grappling with that with all of our teachers for the probably next couple of years, because their libraries of practices are really tied to the F&P. And so we're going to want to help teachers understand that if a child is behind in reading, what skills are they working on in phonics? Then those are the types of books that we should be assigning them to practice in or take home. If a student is ahead in reading, then usually there's really great text complexity measures like Lexile and others that you can point to. You can Google a Lexile measure for a book. You can find grade level appropriate books for a kid who's above. The thing about the letters is that you may have been searching for, let's say, the letter, thinking that it was above or the right level, but the reality is there are so many inconsistencies. It was really more of a marketing tactic, and as opposed to something that we could really rely on, that a kid was actually going to go and be reading a book at their level. We find that the books, like if we're said, you're going to go find a letter M book, and that's going to be at their level. If you took a sample of F&P's 10 letter M books, they could actually be rated much differently than a letter M. And a kid might be successful in them or not, even though you rated them a level M on their assessment measures. So wild inaccuracies in the F&P assessment process really point to, we really need a more simpler assessment process with just 4 indicators, far below, below, on track, or above. And then we're really looking for books based on Lexile and just the indicated grade level.
So then not all the books necessarily need to be removed from the classroom, but just maybe recategorized.
Exactly. Yeah. And that is like, we don't need to organize by levels anymore. We'd be organizing by other categories.
While we're on the F&P, sorry to interrupt again. I'm happy to see it go away because I agree. I don't think it's very accurate. With the screener that's suggested here, and you're saying that 4 levels, 1 being above. When it comes to providing parents with information, it's really critical that there's some more nuance than just above, because that is a really wide range, especially in the, once they start reading, there could be like an explosion of reading and they can read everything in front of them, or it's slower and that explosion happens later. And my own experience with my kids is it's very different kid by kid. So how and what kind of information will be provided? I think generally this is a screener to kind of catch kids who might be behind more than it is to identify specific reading skills that are above grade level. Am I right in that? So will teachers, let's say a kid's just way above grade level, is there like the next level skills to give to like keep going? Because the thing with F&P is you keep going, you'd be at Z and then whatever else. And if whether or not it was accurate, I don't know, but there was a way to kind of get to an end. So how would you approach that if there isn't really an end? It's sort of just like a check, you're above, right? That's it.
Well, they'll get a number.
Okay.
So they wouldn't need to do assessments above grade level. What you would do is you would find like the cutoff mark for being above might be 250 and your child's at 425. And then you get a sense of, oh, my kid is really above that cutoff mark. And it'll be a little grid that shows, or graph, a chart actually that'll show This is where the cutoff mark is for proficiency, and then this is where your child's mark is.
Does OAS do something like that already?
No.
No.
It does, but
They
we
don't.
have a different reading screener.
Okay, but it's like grade level above grade level, right?
Yeah.
They got rid of the letters there already.
Yes, yeah, they use Common Lit.
Yes.
And through the, I'm familiar with this assessment, but only at the younger grades. So for like middle and upper elementary, are there comprehension assessments? Like how would, you can be very fluent and not comprehend anything. And I think that was one of the FMP. That was it's just subjective, right? Depending on the answer, depending on how quickly you're reading. So how does it address those later reading skills in an accurate way?
Right, so the focus of the assessment is really on decoding and phonics, and that's because the comprehension piece can often be a mask for decoding and phonics skills. So we really need to assess whether or not the child can decode, and that's the main goal, because oftentimes the problem with FMP is that the child cannot decode well, which is why it does not do a good job at identifying students with reading difficulties, is students cannot decode, but they have a lot of comprehension strategies. They are very fluent, and so they can overcome that decoding, those decoding indicators, because they can read something kind of like guess, they know a lot about baseball, that's what the book was about, and they use a lot of context clues because they're a smart kiddo, and it kind of fools the teacher. So this is what this test will not lend itself towards that as much, because the focus really is on just decoding.
So then if the student's successful, yet they have comprehension in the classroom, is that where the teacher's getting information?
Yeah, and there is a comprehension
How do you
piece.
catch the comprehension piece of it when they're?
There is a comprehension piece of the assessment. So it's a maze. It's what's called a closed assessment. And so it is assessing whether or not the student's comprehending. But there are other assessments that we want to do to assess like the level of comprehension that would exist in a diagnostic, not in this screener, which has a different purpose.
A different assessment altogether. I guess that's where I was getting to.
Yeah, but there is, I should have said immediately, I'm sorry, though, there is a comprehension assessment included in it.
So I'm thinking about those days at the beginning of the school year where kids were typically doing F&P assessments, right? So instead, they'll be doing a screener and letters, sounds, that kind of thing at the lower grades, and this other ways of assessing at the upper grades, or is it just going to be dibbles?
So they'll use their curriculum-based measures to assess comprehension.
Okay.
Like through their units of study.
But not a baseline assessment at the beginning of the year.
Correct.
Okay, for the upper grades.
Right, but there is a comprehension piece. There are two assessments in the upper grades, and it's an oral reading fluency where they're reading aloud for 1 minute a passage, and then the comprehension fluency as well, which is online for the student. So you'll get two scores for a student. You'll get that fluency decoding, and then you'll get that comprehension.
After they've read it fluently out loud, are they allowed to go back to the text?
No,
I think that will throw off comprehension personally.
it's different texts.
Oh, okay.
Two different.
Okay, got it. Otherwise, they're not going to remember anything.
Yeah, they don't, the oral reading fluency text is completely different from the comprehension text.
And timing wise, in terms of when the screening is happening, you're saying like for K, you may not give it at the beginning of the year, but for the other grades?
Well, we will give it for K at the beginning of the year. We just know that it's less accurate for kindergarten at the beginning of the year.
So all grades will have it at the same time, just kind of like how they try to do F&P, right?
Exactly.
And how will teachers be able to tie this to a Lexile level? Does it spit that out, like a general range?
Yeah, the system does chart with you, Alexa. Okay, so here were the 4 screeners approved. We had to take 2 off our list right away because they don't serve K-5, and that was UCSF Multitudes and ROAR. Interestingly, the state approved this product ROAR that doesn't even screen in kindergarten, which is mandated by the bill. So we were not going to choose that one. And so we went with Amira and Amplify. We tested both of them. Amira is an AI, a type-based assessment, which is very exciting to try and learn about. And we'll talk about how that went. And then Amplify, M-Class, which is Dibbles. and it is administered by the teacher. So one using AI and one administered by the teacher. Our pilot team consisted of 21 teachers total. Many thanks to the curriculum council. And then we did open it up to additional teachers. A lot of teachers spent time learning about the products and then implementing with their students and then rating everything and documenting all their evidence. So that I'm very grateful to the curriculum council team, without which this would not have been possible. And then this was our process. One, we explored current assessment practices. We started those conversations around F&P and moving away from it. Two, we piloted. March through May of this year, we piloted both Mira and M-Class Dibbles. And then we came to consensus in May, and it was evaluated both products on the ease of use, value of the data, and reporting features. M-Class was unanimously selected. The AI features of Mira are just too inaccurate to help us feel comfortable that it would actually be a better option than F&P. We did not feel confident. It says it's normed and tested and scientifically researched, but I think the test itself has not been vetted through scientific research. It relies on practices that have been vetted, but the test itself has never been formally evaluated the way Dibbles has been evaluated for accuracy and reliability. And then we're here to you today to make our recommendation. Should you approve it, we will train and implement August PD and then optional follow-up sessions as well. It's always a challenge, the implementation and training part, because we have such limited time with teachers and resources, time and also financially to pull them out of class. That is also a significant cost impact as well. But we will do our best to make sure everybody's feeling as confident as possible with the start of that testing window in August.
So going back to funding, it says K through 2. So the state's only paying for K through 2? For the
Providing, yeah, I believe it's the $21 a student, K through 2.
and then, but you want to implement this for K through 5.
Correct.
So then the district would have to,
That's our recommendation, yes.
That's our recommendation.
and the pilot was K through 5?
Yes. Okay, so our recommendation is Dibbles M-Class, and there are 3 big reasons. One, it's the most widely, Dibbles is the most widely used and trusted assessment. It's been around for, I want to say, 20 or 30 years, and is continuously updated. And then it's the most accurate. And it has a digital platform, something that we have not had before when it comes to reading screening or assessments. And so that's going to be really nice for streamlining administration, for reporting, for the district level to be able to view all the data, help monitor progress. Our interventionist, TOSAs, they use this data. They're so excited about having it all in one place. And right now this data exists in Illuminate, and that is a challenge for us. So it'll be very nice to have this digital reporting platform. And then I did want to talk about the steps of comprehensive screening, because we're really right now just talking about step 1, which tells us who was behind. What's next is, after you know who's behind, is to do more thorough diagnostics to figure out, like if you imagine it like an eye test, you initially have a sense like, let me do a quick screening at the doctor's office, whether I can see those letters or not. And then when they show that you're low, then that's when you go, oh, I need to go to an ophthalmologist, a specialist. And they're going to do a bunch of different diagnostic tests to figure out my exact prescription. And so that's what the diagnostics here in step 2 are showing, is that that's something we actually need to build up for teachers, is a list of valued and reliable diagnostics that every grade level can go to once their screener tells them a kiddo is behind. And a lot of these tests actually already exist and teachers are using them. And then in other areas, we're going to need to sort of add to them to make it more robust. And then ultimately, the third phase is intervention. That's our goal, is to deliver that instruction aligned with those skills for those kids. Okay. So here's our next steps. We implement a new screener with training and ongoing support. And then we have support for teachers and community in the transition away from Fountas and Pinnell and their practices. And a lot of those I spoke to already. We're going to address the library, which books am I shopping for? And we also have to do some parent education nights and parent communications and back to school night information. And then we need to continue to adapt our reading instruction practices to the science of reading and provide resources for teachers to do that. And then we need to ultimately ensure all students are reading proficiently by grade 3. And if they're not, we are continuing to assess, monitor, and provide them support until they are proficient. I think that's it. Last one. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. That's awesome, Sarah. Wonderful, comprehensive, and it's interesting to see the change in the program and the AI testing is interesting. And being active, even to hear about all the things. So thank you and the team for doing all that.
Yeah.
Open up for discussions.
I just have one question. It sounds like this is a great alternative and it got high marks with those that were piloted. Any downside, like anything that you see doesn't cover something or will need, to do something else because this program doesn't have it, or is it perfect?
In my experience, it's as perfect a screener as you're going to get. Screening itself has its limitations. One of the challenges in the pilot process that some teachers would say is, but I didn't get that much information from it. I still don't know all the letters that he knows or doesn't know. I don't know that. And so it's really helping teachers see, but that's not the purpose of this test. It's meant to be quick. And it does give us accurate results. The diagnostic piece is where we need to really provide resources so teachers do feel like we're getting that information, especially with FMP, because teachers used to spend 20 to 30 minutes per student assessing and listening to a student read. And when you listen to a student read for that long, it does feel like you're getting a lot of information, like you're spending your time wisely. However, when you look at the results of FMP and you actually look at how you could use that information to inform instruction, there's not a connection. And so that's why FMP has been under fire, is because you really are taking so much of the teacher's time to assess and it's not yielding accurate results. We could get more accurate results with just a 1-minute test. Well, in kindergarten and first grade, there's more tests, more subtests. So it's more about 5 to 7 minutes per child, but a lot far less than 20 to 30.
It's 1 minute per
Each one of
child?
the measurements is 1 minute.
And how many measurements?
It depends on the grade. Yeah.
So I think I would add is just as a parent of a child who had it dibbles done, when you get a result, it is very, like, oh, you went through this very quick temporary, what's the information? So if there isn't a lot of information that comes in, it does feel like that's it. So now what?
Right.
So I think that's a lot of information because there's going to be a lot of parent education and communication that's going to come with it, or that's the downside of it. It feels very, oh, okay, so I just got the screener grade. Now what? So I think that's the piece that we're going to have to look at in explaining. Not everybody's going to sit through this wonderful presentation.
Yeah, speaking to that, I did pull up some of the resources that MClass provides in order to make sure I could talk about this as accurately as possible. And so they offer a Home Connect site. So every family can get this report. And it goes through, and I'm sorry, you can't see it, but this is this has got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 assessment measures. And then an overall composite at the top that tells where the child is at in each one of the these are all 1-minute subtests. And then it actually gives indicators to the family about what you could do. Like your child scored at this level on this subtest. Here are some tools and games you can play in the car, at home to build up this skill. And then there's an accompanying website that provides phonological awareness, phonics, accurate fluency practice, and reading comprehension practice. So if a family wanted to go onto that website and dig in, they could provide some resources there.
I didn't get that. All right.
Yeah.
I just had most of my questions have already been asked, and thank you for your very comprehensive report. I know you mentioned, wanting to screen K through 5 now. Do you think that's going to be an ongoing thing that we want to do? Because the way this is presented is because we want to make sure we didn't miss some kids who did F&P, and we want to make sure they get the screening. But do you think on an ongoing basis, once we've gotten through this cohort essentially.
Yeah.
We'll need to continue with K through 5.
I think so, because you're always gonna have students who have the potential for being behind, even in the upper grades. So we're gonna wanna know who those kids are. It goes a lot faster in the upper grades though. So just 1 minute per student, and then the comprehension test is online, and that's like, everybody does it at the same time. It's not one-on-one. So it's really just a one-on-one with each student 3 times a year in grades 4 and 5.
And it provides progress too of the students and how they're progressing or they're, yeah.
That's fine. I just wanted to,
Yeah.
just because it's
No, it's good.
different from what's being recommended by the state, right? So
Yeah, this Orinda actually has a really strong systems of consistent assessment year to year and 3 times a year. I was very impressed upon my arrival. So I think it's, in a way, it's really positive. Like, we're just going to continue with the same practice, but we're going to be using a different tool that's more accurate and should take you less time.
Okay, great. Thanks.
As that's most of my questions, I'm thrilled we're moving away from F&P and that we're getting into something that's evidence-based. So I'm excited to see this and how we can help our kids. So thank you.
You answered my questions. I think just a comment regarding more information, just to parents and teachers. Again, I'm harping on those upper grades, but it is also with the younger grades, they're more into decodables and texts that are more phonics based, right? So that's an easier kind of like, this is what they need. But understanding the lexile levels or understanding what types of texts, I think, is really important in the classroom and then out of the classroom to encourage reading at home, or if there's a requirement to try to read for X number of minutes, just the accuracy of that reading time or the productivity of that reading time is important. And I would hate to be, that FNP was all about just like reading and finding the perfect book. And there's so much effort around that. I don't want to lose the spirit of like reading and consuming materials and that.
Yeah.
I don't think it taught how to read, but it did, in some cases, kind of help students get into a particular subject or get into it. So just want to make sure as that transition happens, just because it's really fast assessment and provides this data that the reading and just continuing that practice isn't lost because we're not sure how to assign books. You know what I mean? That's it.
This item is on for action. Do we have any public comment?
Yes, we do. Charles?
I'm Charles Shin, president of the Orinda Education Association. Although I'm speaking as an individual, I was a part of the pilot team, which is representative of every grade level. It was a very thorough process, and I wanted to thank Sarah Costa-Landry for spearheading the pilot. We had really good training. If there were any questions we had follow-up from the trainers. I did both, and I loved Amplify. Just the ease, once you get the knack of how to use the touchpad for scoring, which took a little bit of time, but I did a little bit of practice. I was like, okay, it's easy, I can do it. So I think at the beginning we get the training during our PD day. People experience it's a little tricky with doing it on your laptop or an iPad, but you get through that. After a few practice sessions, you get through that. And then immediately the data goes immediately to the district. We don't have to do any inputting, so it's going to save us time providing. So we're really excited about that as well. It's a lot quicker, and I think that's better for students. When we were doing FNP, you were saying, and you were generous, you were saying 20 to 30 minutes, but there's kids that could do like 3 levels. We didn't do it in one sitting, but it's like, oh gosh, you passed that one, we'll have to do another one. And there were times when kids would go up 2 or 3 levels, and so imagine that's like an hour and a half per student at the beginning of the year. And it was a lot. So this, with the 5 measures that we gave, it really is 5 minutes plus a little bit of time in between, and kind of seeing how the child's doing. And sometimes you have to come back because you realize that maybe something was challenging. And so you pause and it's like, it's okay. And then you come back. So just keeping an eye on the child and how they're doing. It gives great information. The thing that, and Sarah, I apologize if you already mentioned this, but they give you so many resources. Depending on how they score, they have all these activities that you can do as a teacher. And it gives you all the text, what you need for it. It's just right there. We've never had that before. You can just click on it and then you can print out what you need and you can do a small group instruction from what is provided with the Amplify. So we were dabbling in that. And then also I read through the parent letter, so it was great. It did get the Lexile level, so you can immediately just go on Google Lexile level and see titles of books that you get from the library, our school library, or Orinda library. And then we have a ton of books. And I know kids will look at books and see if they're a good fit. We have ways of helping kids identify books that are a good fit for them. So beyond Lexile level, kids do learn strategies for choosing good fit books. So it's nice to have a library that offers just a lot of books and opportunity for kids to identify things that are good fit and of high interest to them. So I'm very excited, and I just appreciate the pilots. You should come and see Sarah when she does a pilot, or anytime she does a meeting. She connects so well with all of us, and really does assist us in anything that we need from her. So thank you so much, Sarah. You're amazing. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Charles. Right. Is there any other discussion in the board? Okay. If I could have a motion, please. Ms. Hillary, I move that the board approve the recommended literacy screener for adoption. This is my second. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Thank you so much. And I look forward to hearing more. All right. Brian and Mika.
All right. Thank you, President Coleman. This next item is the approval and ratification of the TA between the district and CSEA. On May 8th, 2025, CSEA and the district reached the tentative agreement for the 24-25 school year. And on May 22nd, members of CSEA Chapter 320 ratified the TA. So here we are today, looking to bring this to the board. Included in the TA is a 1% ongoing salary increase for all current unit members, effective to July 1st, 2024, along with enhancements to longevity pay and professional growth awards. In addition, adjustments were also made to employee expenses. So what you have before you is the Contra Costa County Office of Education approval letter that states that the district can indeed afford this increase. We have the AB 1200 approval letter, the disclosure form, and then the classified salary schedule with the longevity increments changed. Looking for approval.
Great, thank you. On that. Any more discussion? Just thank you for your continued work on this. For public comment.
There's no public comment.
But I probably didn't do it right.
Sure. I mean, it's up to.
Oh, yeah.
I'm Charles Shannon, President of the Orinda Education Association. I just think it's really appropriate to say that we will work alongside our staff, and they're remarkable people. You hire really quality employees, and we're proud that they're getting something like we received this year. We appreciate the district's good faith and ensuring that it's a strong contract moving forward for them. So OEA just wanted to say thank you. We had a really good process this year. Sometimes it takes some time, but it's a thorough process. And I just want to say thank you to the district for both the CSEA and the OEA negotiations this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. This item is on for action. If we could have a motion, please.
This meeting, I move that the board approve and ratify the 2024-25 tentative agreement between CSCA, Orinda Chapter 320, and OUSD.
I'll second. Mrs. Hillary? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. And Brian?
All right, well, 6C comes after 6D, because now that you have approved the CSEA contract and the longevity increments, we wanted to match the similar longevity increments to the other classified employees. And those are listed here: before and after school care, our BCPA individual who will be starting in August, the confidential salary schedule, as well as our food service coordinator. So those salary schedules were approved at a prior board meeting, but now we've added the longevity increment.
Discussion?
Thanks for bringing
Okay.
this. Makes sense.
Yes.
Any public comment?
No public comment.
All right, this item is on for action. Do you have a motion?
This is Katie. I move that the Board of Trustees approve the 2024-25 salary schedules for classified unrepresented employee groups with longevity updates.
This is Vanita, I second.
All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you. And, yes, we're going to have a public hearing, so open up a public hearing.
Okay. So, sorry, this is opening up now. Yes, this is our annual public hearing for the LCAP, Local Control and Accountability Plan. So this is not for action tonight. Here we go. But we have 3 public hearings. So we have LCAP, budget, and the, excess of minimum reserve requirements. So there's actually not very many changes to the LCAP this year in comparison to last year. But just as a reminder, the LCAP is a 3-year plan that includes goals, actions, services, and expenditures to support our student outcomes and ongoing improvement. And it is an opportunity for the district to assess our local needs, gather input, and share with the community why our programs and services meet student needs. It is a requirement for us to actually receive local control funding formula. So when the state moved in 2014 away from the revenue limit to LCFF, this was part of the requirement. There are 8 state priorities and metrics, associated metrics that have to be included. So some of the metrics don't necessarily sometimes are as relevant to Orinda and in so other districts, but they are a requirement. Public hearing is this evening, and then we would bring this with any adjustments that the board recommends or with some input from the public. It has been posted since Friday, and we would bring those changes to you for action next Monday. So there are some mandated components that you would be acting on as a part of the LCAP for this year. It seems like there's changes every year. But this year's LCAP must include the budget overview for the parents, which is in one of the documents separated, and then also part of the bigger documents. It's the actual LCAP itself. And then in the last couple of years, they've also asked us to include the local indicators, which is really a self-reflection on how we're doing. That also gets public later on in November when the dashboard goes public. We did actually present a mid-year update to the board on a February 10th meeting. So it seems like a lot of this was just presented to you. So, and now here we are again. So the process and the timeline, as I mentioned, it is a 3-year plan, and we are in the 2nd year of that 3-year plan. So last year was a full revision. We did a lot more input and revised all of our goals, wrote brand new action items and all the metrics. And this year is just a little bit of a progress report on how are we doing this 1 year. Just as a note, those action items and the metrics are established to be accomplished over the 3 years. So some of them we made quite a bit of movement, some of them we haven't made any movement yet, and because we're supposed to do it over the 3 years. So that's how it's written. It's required to have a public hearing, which we're doing this evening, and the board approval is required by July 1. Our process, one of the biggest things that we did was that back in 21-22, when we rewrote our strategic plan, we then decided to really align all of our plans to it. And that's been really helpful because as our school site, as we work on our LCAP at the district office, as the board works on their goals, as the school site plans work on their goals, everything is written under the same priorities. So then all of the action items and all of the metrics all align. So really everything supports each other. Let's see. So 24-25 LCAP metrics have been updated. There are some blanks, and you'll notice those because the data actually, we're still waiting for the school year to close. And we don't have all the data. We may actually have it by Monday. And then reflection and budget analysis of the goals and action steps is based on some of the stakeholder input. This is the graphic that we came up a while ago when we were doing the strategic planning, and you can see what gets reviewed every few years, and how it all aligns. This was our LCAP timeline for this year. So we gave the mid-year update to the board in February. Over the March and April, we did the community engagement. And then the LCAP was written and the budget was developed throughout April and May. And here we are for the presentations. So partners, educational partners engagement, which we call the stakeholder engagement. So how did we gather input this year? So through a variety of ways, mainly surveys this year, so focus group meetings, and then we collect a lot of the data and analyze it. So parents and guardians, all of them received surveys this year through all of our grade levels. And it was actually, after a very slow start, we actually had quite a significant survey input. Last year when we were doing a full revise, there was a lot of focus groups. But this year we did coordinating council, special education and equity steering committees. When the school sites do their single plans in the fall, they will also do it through their site council or their site committee. So they will be reviewing all of that data then as well. I met with the students at OIS, so 2 different leadership groups. So that's about 60 kids that I met for about 4 hours and went through different survey input and just kind of looked through all the different trends. Surveys were released to our staff as well. And then we did their leadership team, our special education committee, equity steering committee, where we have staff as well. And again, our principals got their data and they will be bringing that to the school sites as well in the fall as they develop their single plans. So it keeps going. Just as a reminder, here's our mission statement, our strategic directions, and our LCAP goals support those. And then these are the LCAP state priorities, those 8 priorities that I mentioned that are established by Ed Code. They're really around student outcomes, engagement, and then conditions of learning. Okay, so there's components in the LCAP. There are goals, and our district has 4 goals. You can have as many goals as you want. And then actions. There's actions that address each of the established goals. And then there's budget and resources allocated in each section. And then we are supposed to measure and report how we're doing on those goals. Metrics are established to assess the success of each established action. They include state required and locally established metrics. 23-24 data was used as the baseline. And now 25-26 update, which is this update, is our year 1 outcome. And as I mentioned, they're written to be established over a 3-year period. This just shows what it looks like in the actual document. Which there are not very many people that look at that document, but this is what it looks like. So when we're writing the goals, these are the metrics. There are numbered metrics. There's the established metrics, the baseline, and we have reported in this year 1 outcome. And then we actually had to establish that target outcome. What are we shooting for? Those don't change. So right now you have already approved those last year. We don't have any of those new ones. All we're doing is reporting on year 1. And there's like that blank one right there, for example. And that says reclassification of English learners. And there is no current CD data yet. So that's why it's blank. So we just didn't put it in there. If we don't get it by the end of the week, by the time it's an action, we'll just say no current or no updated data. So we'll make sure there's no blank items. Let's see. And then if you look at the action items, they're written to address each of the established goals. There's budgets. So I'm sorry, this is like super tiny. So you would write an action item and then how many funds. When it says contributing yes or no, that means is it going towards the unduplicated students specifically, like English learners, foster youth, homeless youth? That's what that yes or no means. So is it specifically targeting those students? And if it says yes, then we have to write a whole separate pages, and we do have those items. And then there's the goal analysis. That is a new section this year that we had to write. How did we do on last year's goals? And specifically write on each one of the action items. And did they contribute to positive? What kind of outcomes they contribute, which I have argued that when you have 14 action items, how can you isolate that one of those action items has actually contributed to positive measures when they're all working together? But So we guessed which of these items worked and which of these were like, well, we think. So you can see that in the analysis. Okay, so we're going to go through all 4 goals. These couple of slides actually just show that we have goals in all 4 areas, but since I'm going to go through each one, I'm just going to kind of skip through those and go into goal 1. So goal 1 is around student learning, just like our strategic priority. And the main aspects of that are around differentiation and evidence-based curriculum. And what we were really focused on when we were writing this goal is based on the input is that there was a need for district-wide alignment and instructional practices because we wanted to make sure that there's educational equity across all grade levels and departments. So what we're hearing in input when we wrote the LCAP is that there was a need for differentiation and alignment across the district in what we're teaching, how we're teaching it, so that the students were coming up from each grade with the same or similar skills, same basic essential skills. How they're being taught could be very, up to a teacher, but that there's that educational equity across the grade levels. So that's been a big focus. So some highlights around some action items. There's a lot of work happening in these last couple of years around curriculum alignment through the work of the PLC work, so professional learning communities. We have the English language ELD teacher support, which we support our English learners. And we have put in quite a bit of new curricula around about literacy, the phonics curriculum, the social studies curriculum implementation in the last couple of years. And Sarah's going to be bringing in, and we're going to be talking about math in the future. So there's a lot of curriculum alignment. When we bring in new curriculum, it comes in new training that supports that alignment across the district. Systematic intervention support system through all of our schools, so that MTSS work, when you see that pyramid at every single presentation, that starts becoming embedded into how do we address the intervention, and it's embedded throughout the work across the district. This is when we were talking about examination of our grading and homework policies. We began with grading and heavily involved at OIS. So we've met quite a bit over there, and actually that's going to be culminating this week with the work and 2 days with that session that I'll be working with their teachers to come to you with the policy to start the year off. And then we'll kick off the homework policy writing. So it's just all checking off and going down the list. Course offerings, course pathway, it's all part of the alignment. When we don't know what our course offerings are and it's not written down, it's hard to align to things. It's in, as we call it, rich oral tradition, as opposed to when it's written down. We have summer programming happening. We have some math intervention, bridges offering over this summer, and a lot of planning for next year as well. Some of the summary of the outcome metrics we're looking at, this is around the state and local assessments. We're examining English learner success, and those are all required metrics. How many students are accelerating, their access to courses. We're looking at that local indicator evaluation tool and grades. What kind of grades are they getting? So some of the highlights in our year 1 outcomes, it's the implementation of standards-based curriculum throughout adoptions and pre-LC work, our focused work on MTSS. We had, start embedded intervention in our elementary schools. We're excited about our new schedule next year in elementary schools to really, with that extra prep. Literacy intervention, math intervention at OIS, which really resulted in quite a bit of increase of student scores for those students, and then providing some of that extra summer support. We have stable performance on test scores as assessed by our state scores. We actually have significant improvement of our English learner progress as measured by LCAP, and then you all approved a course catalog. Areas of focus. We continue the adoption of phonics, social studies. We adopted an assessment tonight, but we do have budget constraints on some of those, and how we continue to work through more books, more decodables, and bigger libraries, and so on. Focus on professional learning communities, work on our tiers of intervention, that continues. The grading practices, homework, that continues. Courses of study that are results. That was a next step after the course catalog. Our big focus and what we heard a lot from our input committees was transition from middle to middle and away from middle to high school. So that will be a big focus this year as well. And then we have a commitment with OEA and our staff to examine our current day schedule, K through 8th grade, to see is our schedule benefiting our students? How can we embed some intervention in all grade levels? What does that look like? And then it was some requests to examine our calendars. Sometimes, can our calendar support some of our learning? Early bird, late bird. There are some days out there that are very heavy on absences. Could those be half days, like a Halloween? When there's a lot of wasted instructional time that maybe could be professional development. I don't know. There's just a lot of things out there that we can examine that can support student learning. Okay. Goal 2 was around community of belonging, which our biggest focus is on nurturing educational environment that promotes wellness, social emotional well-being, equity, inclusivity, and wanted to embed that in all of our core student programs. To Charles's point earlier, how can we embed all that? Action steps focus around increasing and maintaining that status of wellness counselors and expanded counseling at grades 6 through 8. There was a large focus in the original LCAP around co-curricular and extracurricular supports during that unstructured time. If you might remember, there's a lot of conversations on recess, lunchtime supports, and then review of our social emotional programming, positive attendance campaign, and examining our independent study programming, engaging our welcoming of our new families, and then we wanted to implement steering committees. So our biggest metrics here are around attendance and chronic absenteeism, connectedness by the examination of Healthy Kids surveys, cyberbullying measures, and counselor visits. So when we look at our highlights, we have very significant actual improvement in the last year around chronic absenteeism. So it's drops in absenteeism data. So we're really proud of that. That's great. Our attendance rates are flat. So when we look at the absenteeism rate in general, that has not improved. So we were focused on chronic absenteeism. Now we're going to really have to focus on all attendance. Low incidence of suspension, and that's actually gotten better, again, from first year to this year. So we'll continue expansion of our programming through counseling. We really want to look at, to Sarah's point earlier, which I kind of chuckled when she said, we need to look at diagnostics and that tier 1 around the social emotional side of the pyramid. And that's what we've been working on with the counseling. During that safety evaluation, they said we have a great counseling program, but we really need a systematic approach to that. What does that side of the pyramid look like? So that's our big target area. Let's see, focus areas, that's what I mentioned around there. So I think I just mentioned all of those. Our English learner population is growing. There are some requirements that we are now hitting around, we actually have to have an official district English language committee of parents. So it's called DLAC. So we will be starting that in August. We used to have an international group of parents. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're all English learners, but that's a requirement. So we'll be starting that. We also may have a school site committee or ELAC because we are hitting some prerequisite numbers. Our percentages have gone up. So let's see. And then around recruitment, around staff, always, we can't do any of this work if we don't have highly qualified staff. We want to recruit and retain our staff where they feel valued and supported. So we continue to provide our new teachers with support, either through induction or our local programming, professional development around RTI, curricular alignment, phonics, and professional development. There's always an ask for more teachers on special assignment that is unfunded currently, except for our intervention teachers. So summary of outcomes, we look at fully credentialed staff recruitment, percentages of vacancies, which for us are either none or very small amount in classified And then we measure retention because we look at why, if anybody leaves for what reasons, and that we added that metric, and we do not have unexplained departures, meaning people are not leaving our districts for some unknown reasons. So they are happy here if they're here. So those are the highlights. We have increased also percentages of staff full credentials from one year to another, and also increased percentages of those filled classified positions from one year to another. So we started a year much more successfully when it comes to filled positions this year. We provided some really strong professional development to our staff and our weekly collaborations. All we hear is we want more. So those are going well, and we'll continue to work on how we can do that. And then key areas of focus of how can we provide that ongoing professional development through release-based collaboration, use of experts. One area that I know that we have not done as well is the classified professional development. Out of that group, our BASC team has done really strong PD, and even on optional days, almost all of them come in. And we just haven't had that in the rest. And Brian and has worked with CSCA on that, and well, that's going to be our big focus for next year. Let's see. Last one is responsible management and resources. That's been our goal because, again, if we don't have a long-term fiscal stability or well-run facilities, we can't do any of this either. So that we have made a commitment to have a 5-year deferred maintenance plan, and I think you're going to get an update tonight on that. And then we wanted to have a full facilities master plan, which the board approved a couple meetings ago, and that's going. Budget steering committee, which we'll continue having. Review of categorical spending, which is in the works and happening. I think the facility cleanliness and upkeep, we've definitely gotten better input around, especially bathrooms, but that's an area of need still. So we'll continue that. And then another outcome that we have not reached is the usage of nature area. We had some very clear metrics of how many students we want to go through there, and that has not been successful. And we're hoping to take care of that by the end of this LCAP, that's for sure. So those are the highlights. I just sort of reviewed those as well. We'll continue working on those. So with that, I know that was a lot. But there was a full revision last year, so not many changes right now outside of the full analysis, a hefty analysis, but not many changes, just updates. So if there's any recommended changes or questions or thoughts, we are happy to update them between now and next week.
I don't have any changes or recommendations. I just want to thank you for this very thorough process. I had the opportunity to participate on 3 of those participants. So I do feel that a lot of what was shared in those input meetings is reflected here. And I think this is very clearly laid out in a way that's understandable to anybody that doesn't really otherwise understand it also. Thanks.
Well, especially for someone who just joined the board in December, I've really appreciated all the information. I feel like we've been talking about the LCAP a lot these last few months. And now it's great to see that these goals were created and there's actually things being done that align with the goals. Sometimes, goals are created and they're just kind of there, but the district is actually doing things that are improving student learning and community. So it's been great to see.
Checking some things off.
No recommended changes to the LCAP itself. More of a question of the presentation here. So I know you obviously there's a lot of documents that back this up, so very, very long and detailed ones. But what I really liked about some of those is where you actually have the quantitative measures that you've done thus far. And I wonder if there's a way in future, this is not, if it's within the formats that are allowed to show some of those, this was the baseline, here's where we are, this is the target, just some of those visual representation of it and the quantification of it can help with all the great information you're presenting here. So that was one thing. And just the other was just on the, maybe that's going to be talked about next, but some of the budget things that are also with the broader LCAP about how we allocating funds to the students most in need, essentially, which I think is here. But
Yeah, so I don't know if Mika I don't think the budget specifically will go into how much the resources are, but we can actually structure, we always struggle, like, what's the, just a couple
what is
slides.
the
What is
best
the best visual on it? No, and I feel you, I think that's a good, of how do we show it so it's not as dense with data?
Yeah.
But yet it does show actually progress quantitatively versus just the highlights. Yeah, no, I think that's great.
agree.
Yeah,
think that's
I think that's good. Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah, I agree completely. And I think at the beginning, when you had a couple slides related to that really detailed document where there are some data points, I was trying to read it really small to see like where that progress was at, you know, because there is 1 year, so 1 year's worth of progress. And maybe the quantitative data is kind of more relevant a couple of years out because then you have like some time, but like I agree, it would be another way to look at this that might be informative and helpful. And then I don't have any recommended changes. I think it's great work and I think there's been a lot of work done and it's nice to see it written down. I was part of on a couple of committees where we reviewed this as well. And I think the people in the committee, particularly parents, enjoyed or appreciated having access to it and being able to look at that themselves. My one recommendation would be to continue to make sure everybody working in the district is aware of these goals and those are top of mind, because to Benita's point, it's nice to have goals. They need to be worked on and actionable and so that there's a constant time, which I think is already being done, but you know, the more that can be articulated to new hires or really at the beginning of the school year would be good.
No, I think that's good. So the communication of it.
Yeah.
Indeed, and I do know just to Hillary and Katie's points, the parents did enjoy going through I remember reading the poster paper up on the wall and really engaging in the conversation. So seeing all this, I know they'd be very happy to see this kind of work. So well done. And
Okay, great.
any public comment?
No public comment.
Okay, and closing that hearing and opening the other hearing. District budget proposal, Ika.
Thank you. So this is the budget for next year. It needs to be approved by the board along with the LCAP by July 1st. Budget cycle starts with today. Today is the public hearing and next we are going to have the adoption in 1 week. So this is the first meeting for the 25-26 budget. Governor's May revision, it was announced May 14th. Thank you.
It's good. I'll just follow you.
Okay.
Fine.
So COLA was cost of living adjustment. It was 2.43% in January. It was lowered to 2.3%. TK add-on was introduced. Well, it was there, but the rate was increased in January, almost double. And that was reduced about 80%. Originally, it was 3,000. It was increased to 6,400. And with May revision, it was decreased to 55.45. And even though this is kind of jumping around, regardless of this, the TK 10-to-1 student to teacher ratio will be a mandatory starting 25-26. There are a couple of one-time funds introduced. One of them is discretionary block grant, student support and professional development, discretionary block grant. This was reduced from 1.8 billion at state level to 1.7 billion. Another one was learning recovery emergency block grant. This was introduced 3-4 years ago. It was one time and we were gonna fully spend it at the end of this year, but they are introducing it based on the needs assessment that district will do. The governor is providing about 1 million less. They're appropriating about 1 million less than calculated amount for the Prop 98 minimum guarantee. And governor is promised to settle up if the calculated amount is met. So, but for now, we are receiving less amount. And the rainy day funds will be projected to be depleted at the end of 25-26. We will contribute it, but the governor will take it out, so it will be totally depleted. I didn't include it here, but the June apportionment, about 9% of apportionment will be deferred from June to July. And other program that will receive the quota increase is special education for Orinda, special education, nutrition, and mandated block grant. That was the governor's May revision highlighted stuff that will hit Orinda. So now 25-26 revenue budget. So our with the LCFF quota increase and also the projected enrollment increase, Orinda will receive about 1.6 million more in LCFF revenue. Special ed federal grants will be decreased tiny bit. State reimbursement from transportation that is based on current year, that will increase. And we included Learning Recovery Emergency Block Grant. This is low risk. Everybody said it's low risk. It's probably going to happen. And we have been paying the TOSA out of this grant, and we will continue doing so. However, this is one time, so after 2 years, it will probably, we will exhaust it. We didn't include the proposal to increase the TK add-on rate. So we kept the 3,100 rate instead of 5,525, 5,500 rate. And also we didn't include the one-time discretionary block grant. This was high risk as well. And also the amount was decreased. And also there was a talk about possibility of changing the requirement. Right now it's discretionary, but there might be some restriction put by the legislature. And the local revenue will be adjusted as we receive it. So next one shows the pie chart for the revenue. 63% of the revenue is from the state and the property tax. 27% is from local. And within the 27%, 10% is one grant and a parent donation. 12% comes from parcel tax and 5% comes from other stuff. This next slide shows the numbers. And this is separated with unrestricted and restricted, and also the type of funding that we are receiving. So the top row shows the LCFF funding, like property tax, state funds, and also EPA, Education Protection Act. That's the top row. And the federal revenue, that's Title I and special ed entitlement. And other state revenue, third line is like lottery, learning recovery block grant, mandated block grant, Prop 28, those things. And local revenue, fourth row, this is including one foundation grants and parent donations, and also special ed AB 602 apportionment. It's the restricted side, and also stirs on behalf. It's stirs on behalf of reciprocal to expenditure, but it's a big amount, 2.2 million is included in the state revenue. And other sources, 67,000, this is for, that's a tax subsidy for the clean energy bond that we issued. And then contribution is moving from unrestricted to restricted fund. And the next slide shows the expenditure. The proposed budget was created with some assumption based on the enrollment increase, we increased 5.5 FTE, certificated FTE. Salary and benefit, overall, it increases by 6%. We still have carryover one-time funds like educator effectiveness, art and music program. This will be utilized next year to support, along with the unrestricted funds, professional development, training, those things. And that will be fully exhausted at the end of 25-26. Some increases in stipend cost and some supply cost. Property liability insurance, we were advised to budget for 15% increase. So that's what it was done for 25-26. And some contract budget was decreased with needs change. Kids promoted to high school or moved out of the area, or some of the budget we used for this year was really emergency fixing, repair cost. So those were removed from 25-26 expenditures. So the total of projected expenditure for next year is 48.1 million. Salary and benefit is about 83%. Next chart shows the numbers. Again, this is rounded up by 1,000 because I didn't want to put $2 and $3. So expenditure.
Sorry, just to go back to the slide 10 for a second. So the increase in particular, the sort of this certificated and classified, it's primarily because we're hiring more people, because obviously we did increase the per person.
Yeah, because we anticipate enrollment to go up about 78 kids.
Okay.
So naturally we need more
lower
teachers.
grades because of the TPA expansion. Yeah. So, okay.
So the expenditure chart table, this is separated. The first line is certificated employee, teachers, principals. Second line is classified employee, IA, custodian, maintenance workers, and office people. And books and supply, classroom supply, technology devices, those are the books and supplies. Contract services, this includes not only contracts, it includes utilities and insurance and legal costs are included. Capital outlay, this is mainly funded by Parent Club for the project that started this year, but it's going to be completed next year. Other outgo, this is like the debt service payment for 2015 clean energy bond is the outgo, and also the payment for special ed service to other districts. So fund balance. So when we prepare the budget, at the same time, we clean up this year's budget as well to, we are not ending, but try to be as close as we think how it's going to end. So it's comparing 24-25 and 25-26. And when you look at 24-25 net increase, decrease, you notice 1.5 million. But this is like 500 deficit spending is in unrestricted side, but about 900,000 is in restricted side. And this naturally happens because we report the revenue in 2, 3, 5 years ago, and then we are spending that money down. So when you look at 25-26 net increase decrease, you see 650,000. 500,000 out of this is unrestricted, and 100 is out of restricted side. So overall ending fund balance change from this year to the next year is decreasing by 650,000. Any questions so far? So next slide shows the fund balance, projected fund balance for the 25-26. We anticipate to have about 600,000 in cafeteria fund, deferred maintenance fund, zero balance. And naturally, Fund 21, building fund, measure E&I. This decreases as we finish the project. Capital facilities fund, this is for the developer fee fund. It's gonna go down to about 6,000. And special reserve, we still have almost 3 million. The Fund 51, this is controlled by, managed by county. We receive property tax from citizen. It's put in here, and then it's being used to pay the bond premium and interest. So the ending fund balance is usually at this level. BASC Fund 63, we anticipate about 18,000 at the end of 25-26, and then OPEB fund will have 1.7 million. The next one is multi-year projection. So current year to next year and 2 years out. These are the assumptions that we used. Enrollment, 2,672. This is based on, as of May 17th, actual enrollment plus some summer enrollment that we anticipate to have. And out years are using cohort survival and historical rate change. So we anticipate to have increasing enrollment. Step and quota is 1.5. Quota is coming from the school services board. CPI the same way. CalSTARS rate will not change. CalPERS, for the first time since, I think, 2013, the rate went down. It kept going up until this point, but next year it's going to go down a little bit, but then it's going to go up again. And like I said, TK add-on, we are using 3,148, and then quota increase out years. So another multi-year projections, average daily attendance used was 96.2%. This was about the same level P1 time, and we used the P2 level. It's like an April attendance report percentage. And we talked about TK add-on. Teacher FTE 25-26, we increased about 5.5 FTE. And 26-27, we included 3 FTE increase. And 27-28, we included 2 FTE increase. Again, TOSA will be paid out of one-time grant for 25-26 and 26-27. And then after that, it's gonna be funded by the unrestricted money. Tip mentor and program cost that is paid out of the one-time funds that comes back to unrestricted fund in 26-27. CAPS, California Principal Support Network, 3-year program will end at the end of 25-26. So that was removed from the multi-year projection, and the health benefit increase 5% was included in the multi-year. So next one shows the revenue, expenditure, net changes, ending fund balance for 3 years. We anticipate deficit spending in 25-26, and we estimate we're gonna move out of it the following year. So the proposal, budget proposal summary. Recap is, again, 25-26 is 2.3%. And we believe that this will not change with, when they enact the budget. Enrollment increase for several years, but then start flattening or start declining. ADA 23-24, it was 96.5%. And in 24-25, it declined a little bit. So we are hoping it will go up again. So current one-time funds will expire soon, but we are hoping another the discretionary block grant in some way it will be approved at the enacted budget.
And we can just, so even though the legislature will not pass the budget by Monday. And that's the problem, is that we don't know how much the block grant would be, so that's why they suggested not to put it in, or the TK, but we're pretty certain something new would come in.
Yes.
We just don't know what that is.
Right.
So then, should that come in, as we think additional revenue would come in at the enacted budget, we will bring it to the board in August, right? It's a 45-day.
Yes.
So at the August board meeting, we would bring in a revised version of the budget with the revisions that includes that, the enacted budget.
So right now, it's really hard to predict it's going to be ongoing increase or one time, or how much it's going to be, or how restricted it might be. So it's really hard to budget for it or assign what to pay for it.
So we're just, while the board's going to be acting on this on Monday, it won't include new funds, but we will bring a revision forward in August. Should include new funds.
And going back to the multi-year projection chart, if you notice, our ending fund balance is about 5 million, and this is 10% of our expenditure. And
10% reserve.
10% reserve, yes. The California Elementary District average is 25%. So if we can get to 25%, that's good. We will see. So next step is we will bring this back to adoption for June 9th board meeting. And then we will wait for governor or state to enact the budget. And if it's more than 10% change, we will bring it back to the 45-day budget revision.
That was incredibly comprehensive and sobering, I will say. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, there aren't a lot of levers we can pull right now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the other times that we pull the levers are in the process that actually have the impact on the numbers. So this is more like, it seems like a very reasonable representation of the reality that we're in. And I think all of us would like to be in a somewhat different 25% reality. So I think we just have to be particularly, as more, when we do get to more the next set of points where we're going to make decisions, we're going to have to make our goals.
Yeah.
So. Because otherwise we risk putting ourselves in real fiscal trouble.
I agree. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Item 8A. I'm sorry. We passed. 7C, accept minimum reserve requirements, open for public hearing.
So this is to disclose the component of ending fund balance. Ending fund balance after the restricted balance, which is the revolving cash, and also the restricted money ending fund balance. After you remove it, we have about 1.7 million. And from that, we have to set aside 3%. It's about 1.4 million. And we have about 225,000. And this is assigned to be ready for future years' Measure Z step and column increase. Measure Z fund, the money doesn't increase, but then expenditure keep increasing. So there's a difference. So to mitigate that, this is assigned. 153,000 is assigned for that, and 72,000 was assigned to fund the following year, 25-26 FTE increase.
No, oh,
No, thank you. This seems appropriate and good planning.
yes, agreed. Thank you. Okay, this is only up for discussion and closing the public hearing. Now, item 8A.
Okay. Yes, we bring this item for discussion. It's been discussed informally in different venues here, and asked to bring to the board in a meeting for potential or consideration of a board meeting day change. So why are we considering this? And the purpose of this discussion is that just the current status, the OUSD board currently holds meetings on the second Monday of each month. I put second in quotes because actually for the first half of the year, and it seems like that's just been the trend, we have been on a third Monday of each month. So half the meetings, it seemed to be on the third Monday. So the board has had some sort of informal conversations about potential change of a meeting day. And those reasons for that change have been to really, number one, increase the transparency and public access to the staff and to the board and to the documents. And then to improve the staff responsiveness and preparation and to ensure full engagement with those agenda materials. So as mentioned, the current structure is board meetings are currently held on Mondays. The Brown Act mandates that agendas be posted 72 hours prior to the regular meeting and 24 hours prior to the special board meetings at the minimum. So regular board meeting agendas for us, that means they're posted on Friday afternoon, so 72 hours in advance. And that means that the agendas are up for review Friday evening, Saturday, Sunday by the public. And even in our statements, it will say, contact the district office or come to the district office to review the materials. But it really leaves one working day, which is Monday, to discuss that with the staff. It is availability of the staff is limited to respond to questions before that Monday meeting. We do respond to questions on the weekends as needed but like to come in and review the material or sit down with somebody and when we're just not here. So that was the impetus for this, of the structure of the change. Benefits to meetings, if we move meetings to a later weekday, we did not consider Fridays. Considering Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, we would say current start time and format, and then continue meeting one time a month. Potential benefits are public access. There's more time for the agenda review, greater ability to engage with staff during the week. There is some operational efficiency, availability to answer trustee questions, community questions, reduces some pressure on the Friday deadline. What you as board members, us as we're recommending or not recommending, we're actually making no recommendations, just really to consider, what are the preferred weekdays of the board members for a meeting. We also want to consider what are conflicts with other district or community events impact on board and the staff. And then should there be a change, what would be the timing of this implementation? So considerations, just pulled in some of the potential conflicts with other organizations. Monday is currently our meeting. Walnut Creek School District. I'm like, wait a second. Walnut Creek School District, their board meetings are also on Mondays. They do meet, and sometimes first and third, sometimes mainly it's second and fourth. And then that agenda is published on a Friday. I would say out of all the school districts around here, that's probably our lowest conflict district because just out of the geography and how many conflicting parents we have. Tuesday, we have Orinda City Council meetings. They're on first and third Tuesday of the month. Moraga School District meets on the second Tuesday of the month. That means the agenda actually goes live on a Saturday. So for the staff, it doesn't make a difference with regards to when it gets published. It just goes live on a Saturday, but it does allow for Monday, Tuesday for the community members to come and review it. Wednesday is Akalani's High School District. That's a big conflict, clearly, for us. So they're on first and third Wednesday. Lafayette School District is actually on a second Wednesday. And that agenda gets published on a Sunday, but it allows 3 days of the weekday for review of the agenda. And then Thursday night, I actually put that as a pretty conflicting outside of any board meetings. It's just often open for outside of all the city events and all sorts of things. I just put in there. Usually we host a lot of open houses, back to school nights, science nights, all sorts of things because it's a big family event. That agenda is ideally published on a Monday, really leaving almost the whole week for review. So it's a very nice for transparency, but pretty big for conflict. So next steps, should the board reach a decision to implement a change, which we're not making tonight. Tonight is just a discussion. We would develop a formal recommendation for action. Board meeting schedule and calendar would be adjusted. Change would be communicated to community in advance. So when you will be acting on board calendar next week. But Angel did put in a draft here of potential Mondays, Monday meetings for next year. So you can see those. And then there's this calendar, which is a school year calendar, which I realize it's a little hard to see, but should we have meetings on Mondays? They're highlighted in this salmon-y color. You can see this pinkish highlight is if it's on Tuesdays, blue is on Wednesdays. So you can see kind of where they fit in a school year when it comes to dates. I'm trying to figure out what's the best visual to show when it comes to school. We should have made those highlights a little bigger, but I think you get the idea of how it works if we were to stick with that day. Try to avoid the Akalani's days, the city council days. So if you just figure out like why that day, it's to avoid their already preset, twice a month dates. So I say we don't have a recommendation because I do think that Mondays are challenging for the lack of transparency and accessibility, or otherwise we would have never even started this topic. I think that having everything online has made it easier because in the past people have actually had to come in and see physical items that are shown in the office. So I think the fact that it's on board docs and it's so accessible does make that easier. But Mondays they're probably the hardest of the week when it comes to accessibility and transparency of the documents and accessibility to staff to answer questions to the community or even trustees because people are often gone on the weekends. It's just that the conflicts with other organizations are significant. So I think Wednesdays possibly, potentially with regards to it's just that are we interfering with Akalani's or Lafayette? What does that look like? City council? I don't know. There's just a lot here to talk through. So throw it out there.
I mean, I don't know.
And it could just be
I'll say
a start of a discussion.
Yeah, I will say for me, I would either prefer to keep it on the Monday or a Tuesday. I think Wednesday nights tend to have a lot of other conflicts as well. Thursday for sure, I think is out, but I think for me, it would be a Monday or a Tuesday.
I agree. Yeah, I think I'm similar. And Tuesday with the other conflicts feels like a tough one to try to squeeze it in. It pretty much have to be like the fourth Tuesday, which I guess is possible. There are a few.
I think it's listed.
Oh, because I think that just didn't know we wanted it matter to be overlap with more on that.
Yeah,
that's
right. And it is.
But one thing, there were some dates where we on our current calendar that I thought were particularly awkward, like the night before the first day of school, which I would like to avoid if possible, both for us, but also for the parents who might have anything they want to say on that night. So adjusting ours, like the one that was proposed, to kind of try to avoid some of those high conflict dates would be great. But that's probably the main. Otherwise, I think it starts getting really hard really fast. What is the date?
The 18th is the day before.
No,
The current schedule has us on the
18th.
The last I saw it still has us on the 18th.
You're talking about
This one.
There's a second week.
That's not it. I saw a schedule that still had it on the 11th.
So that's
Did it move?
We approved it. Yeah, I don't
We did. Okay, maybe that was just.
I mean,
an old
I'll just
schedule.
say for me, I actually am gonna miss the 18th. I'm moving my daughter into school, so regardless, Keep it Mondays, I'm out.
But with regards to the day itself, we're hearing Wednesday, Thursday so far out. Tuesday's challenging due to just Orinda conflicts, and Moraga already has that date. So
Keeping
Yeah, I mean,
as
I
is.
understand. Well, I'll say I do very much understand the problems with Mondays in terms of for staff or for the community who wants to review the agenda and it's over a weekend, which is, you know, you can't get in touch with anybody and then it's Monday and then it's the meeting. So for transparency, I agree. Similarly, I would say no to Wednesday and Thursday. But with Tuesday, I think Tuesday can be done if it's, you know, pinpointed around the city council meetings. It's the same town, so I don't think that overlap is acceptable. The one with Moraga is like okay with me.
Yeah, I feel the same. I actually don't mind if our meeting's the same night as Moraga. Don't really.
So that that's where I stand. I could do either of those. I understand the pros and cons for each, but I'm comfortable with Tuesday if it doesn't conflict with the city council meetings.
I'm generally agreement with everyone. Wednesday, Thursday, no. Tuesday, I mean, I know, as Katie mentioned, it's a small town, so oftentimes people, even though it's down the street.
no, the city council.
The city council, they can't do that. So it sounds like we're keeping to our current date.
It doesn't seem
potentially.
like we have a strong push to move
No,
it.
we don't.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Not at this time.
Yeah, I think as we wrote it, we felt this.
Yeah. Oh, I'm gonna make public comment.
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
Thank you.
And then we can go to the input on the calendar
Yeah.
too, because that's gonna be for action next week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, go ahead, Tracy.
Charles Shannon, OEA president. I think I've attended every meeting for the past 20 years here, except for maybe one or two for being sick. We do a lot of trainings and meetings throughout the week. Thursday is totally out. Every Thursday I'm doing something with CTA. I know it's not all about me, but I just want to say. The partnership that we have though, the union partnership that we have is very strong. And it's really important. And our presence here means a lot to us and the work that we do with the district and with all of you. And I would want to make sure that I can be a part of this, like OEA can be a part of this. You can see that we're super committed. We're here every time. We value everything that we hear at these board meetings. We take that into consideration so that we grow and improve. Mondays have worked. We could make Tuesday work, Wednesday, Thursday completely out. Yeah, so we agree with you. I do like, because I'm on a lot of boards, I do like having the weekend to be able to review material. And when you give a 72-hour, I have that for all my other boards that I'm on. I have time, I carve out time over the weekend to do that. It'd be harder during the week because I go to work all day, and then after school meetings, it'd be really hard for me to review material during the week. So I do value that weekend time. I don't have kids, but for those that have kids, when the kids go to bed, you have the wee hours of the night to also review. But during the week, it's hard. We all have jobs, day jobs and other meetings. So, but I appreciate looking at it, seeing what might work. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Charles. Thank you. All right.
So it sounds like we'll continue and we can examine. So then just going to this, if there's any input with regards to the draft calendar or any of these dates, this is for action next week. You can either let us know right now or email throughout the week.
I should say second week, January through May.
Oh, okay.
Not being fourth week, yeah.
Oh, yeah. We're going sooner, not later.
Yeah.
Yes, got it. Okay. Okay,
Right.
then moving on.
Yes. Master facilities. Stuart.
Deferred maintenance.
I'll get there. You can start. It's downloaded for some reason.
Okay, I'll let you catch up.
Yes.
The plan was designed to address the school district's ability to plan for major repair and replacement of existing school building components and ensure safe buildings. We're presenting a plan to ensure responsible maintenance of facilities and allocation of fiscal resources. The deferred maintenance plan does not include projects that are to be funded by bond measure Z and I. However, the two plans complement each other. The plan will be adjusted as projects are identified that would overlap with the scope that is covered by measures E and I. So the deferred maintenance plan includes a plan development, which is a facility needs based on staff input and building evaluation. Timeline, project timeline based on safety, long-term effects, staff availability, construction. Budget, that's a big one. Budget development based on cost estimates. And accountability, staff will present quarterly updates on deferred maintenance projects. So this is just a recap of what we've been doing the last couple of years. So 2022, 2023, we did the walk-off mats, some HVAC bar units, a lot of damaged siding, dry rot repairs. Remind you, the Glorietta, the dry rot repairs ended up turning into structural repairs that needed because it had been deferred so long. We were able to take care of a water damage section of roof at Glorietta. We recoated the barrel roof. There were some shut-off valves, tamper switches for a fire line that we updated and got up to code. OIS, we had on our list to repair some framing supports, but I thought those are going to overlap with bond work that will be happening now. So that's off the list for now. We'll see if that overlaps or not. Glorietta, Wagner Ranch, resurfacing the MPR floors, getting more life out of them. So the deferred maintenance projects that we completed basically last year, repair, remediate rodent damage at portables 17 and 21. We do have a lot of issues. I can almost, when I get a work order for rodent this or rodent that, I can pretty well guarantee it's next to the school garden, things like that. Those two portables are right next to the school garden there. Quite a challenge. Again, some HVAC units. Glorietta, we had to abate and remove some portions of plaster to locations. We were able to paint the OIS kitchen. We replaced the serving floor, updated that. More dry rot repair at Wagner Ranch, leaking gutters, downspouts at the Edmund building. More repair, remediate rodent damage. And then we were able to seal coat some of the soft surfaces, repair some of the soft surfaces at Glorietta, Sleepy Hollow, and Wagner Ranch. So this year, what we're starting right now with our deferred maintenance. Delray, we're recoating the MPR roof. That started today. Glorietta, the building holds rooms A, B, C, D. It's the one as you kind of come down. I was personally up on that roof, had to go on the list this year. It's in terrible shape. Again, we don't have the money to do the replacements, so we're recoating them. We're buying, a good 7 to 10 years more life out of them. So that will start this Thursday. Glorietta, the dry rot, I don't know if you remember when we were walking. I remember walking with some of the board members on a rainy day, and I pointed to the back of the Bass building with the water just kind of cascading off. That repair started today. One of the things that we identified with the contractor when he was doing the work is that's got a standing seam roof. Half of it is just pitted and leaking. So the same contractor that's doing the roof for ABCD, I'm going to have them look at that, assess it, and give me a quote because it doesn't do any good to repair it, the siding, without taking care of the roof leak that's leaking onto it. Wagner Ranch, the gutters at the library building, that started today. Those came down. Those are just chronic leaks that again have created some of the dry rot at the soffits. That dry rot kind of sagged, and that's where we're having a lot of that rodent intrusion getting into the NPR or into the library building. So tomorrow, the contractor, now that the gutters are off, that gives the contractors access to take care of that soffit repair. When that's done, the contractor that's doing the gutters will come and reinstall them, get them painted, have that taken care of. The kindergarten shade structures at Wagner Ranch are ripped and in terrible shape. Those will be going in the 18th, I think, is what later this month. They may have it scheduled for later this month. And then the exit for the Wagner Ranch is going to get re-asphalted as well along the traffic loops. And then we're going to recoat the roof, or sorry, we're going to recoat the gym floor there as well. So these projects are funded by deferred maintenance, routine restricted maintenance, and the parent club. The deferred maintenance budget for this year is $48,400. That's what I had to work with this year. When I create these lists, I'm working off of several spreadsheets from year to year, kind of moving things around. For example, we started the bond work, major work down at that end of town. So there's only so much room to do this work. So some of it I'm shifting over here, moving it around to try and make it fit. One of the things I should have had on this list that I didn't, because it's actually ending next fiscal year in July, is the Delray Playground. I should have had it on this list. I didn't. So when we come to September's update, all the pictures and stuff, I will definitely have it on there.
There is no Delray Playground.
Yeah. Okay. So moving on, we've got our list for 2025, 26, 26, 27, 27, 28, 29, and so on. So you can see the bulk of it is asphalt and roofing. That's the biggest need that we have. I do have, if you look at the 1.2 million there, that's the Glorietta Kindergarten and Hillside Terrace. So I did remember to include that on there. That's what that budget's for. So trying to spread it out. So when you look and you see 2.7 million, then well, can we do that? Well, 1.7 million or 1.2 million of that is budgeted for that. So we're all balanced as well as I could, trying to spread the work out. If that makes sense. So the next page is by school. Again, trying to balance it. When we had so much before we started this, it was a little bit easier to try and balance and make sure that every school's getting some work. With the bond projects going, again, there's just not enough elbow room to do it. So if it looks like one school's getting more than the other, it's just trying to fit the pieces in. Over the long term, it'll balance out. So that's what that looks like. So deferred maintenance budget. 30% of the district's expenses are dedicated to routine restricted maintenance. This budget is currently not sufficient for the needs of routine needs for facilities repairs. Fund 40. Facility fund is utilized for emergency repairs. We have been using that only when it absolutely is needed and we have no other choice. OUSD has experienced an increased number of emergency repairs due to aging buildings. Developer fees may be used for restricted expenditures to accommodate for increased enrollment. So next steps. We've identified the need and a plan to address the projects. However, ongoing funding is for the work is a challenge. There's no established state resource of revenue for deferred maintenance work. Staff will continue to work with the board, facilities subcommittee, and the business department to determine an ongoing funding source for the projects. We're exploring a grant option, state and private, to fund the ongoing facility needs. Any questions?
Just thank you for staying on this. I mean, it's always disheartening to know we have no money to do a lot of this.
Very stressful.
Hoping this facilities master plan will accomplish something related to this.
Yeah, and then, what was it, Prop 2?
I've heard they've basically allocated all of that money before it even started.
Yeah, so
But that there's gonna be another bond. So the application that we're submitting right now are really gonna be for that, because it was a
That's definitely-
3-year. So I think we're meeting with consultants for next week. And so it was the capital advisor's message. They said, keep putting it in, because really it's applications that were in like 5 years ago that were allocated that funding.
Oh.
Yeah. It's nuts.
it's not helping us now.
Nice to know.
No, yeah, well, but they haven't even started allocating that.
I do think it's interesting that we're including the playgrounds in this.
I know, we
Deferred
haven't-
maintenance. I felt it didn't
And then I kind of went like
feel
that.
quite right to me.
And
That's
you know
what
why it kind of went like that is because, for example, the Del Rey playground had major flooding, drainage issues, and that's being taken care of as part of this project. Glorietta, a lot of it is that hillside terrace that's going to be incorporated into it. So I kind of went back and forth with that as far as
I
including
almost
it.
wonder if that's something we should be keeping separate. I hear what you're saying,
Yeah.
why it's here, but just the way those.
There was a lot of
funded,
gray, there was a lot of gray area.
Yeah.
Gloria, I went back and forth with it. And, like I said, the Del Rey playground, such a major part of that is going to be taken care of as part of this project. And then when I looked at it again at the Glorietta, it's not just down here. We're also going to be doing work on that hillside with retaining walls and things like that.
Is there a plan for Glorietta?
They're just fundraising. They just had conceptual plans and interviewed architects to actually design real plans.
Yeah.
Correct. Which will start back.
So I basically use the same budget that we were using for Del Rey, just to have a budget number to work with.
We heard that let's remove the playgrounds from this and maybe just put them on a side, that this is happening on a side funded by a different budget. And it is here.
One suggestion for future presentations like this would be to see a breakdown by funding source. Because you have, we know what's in our already existent deferred maintenance fund, right, versus what you're showing here with the help of other funds as well as parents club significantly, right? But understanding where that, I think it'd be helpful to see a breakdown, maybe not in the presentation, but as we go along. I mean, I know off the top of my head because we're kind of kept informed of all of that, but
Most everything on the list, if you take out the parent club funded, I'd say the majority is routine restricted maintenance is paying for it.
We could do that, but we can break it out.
The lion's share. That's a good, I can't state that for fact, but just.
yeah, knowing where it's coming from and writing the checks.
Yeah.
Probably do a board update and not this week, but the next week,
Bless you.
as in what it's been for the last year, and then the
Yeah, I think
future
that
will
would
add
be
it.
helpful
Yeah.
information. Mhm.
Thank you.
Yeah, and just thank you for staying on this. I think it's good, to extend the life of the roofs when you can and be on it and know what's coming up as opposed to being caught with a bigger problem.
Yeah.
That's a great suggestion.
This is only up for discussion. So, thank you, Stuart. Do we have any public comment?
No public comment.
All right. Moving on to Measure E&I.
Stuart.
This year is just kind of final closeout with the Division of Street Architecture. Once all the paperwork is in, all their I's are dotted, T's are crossed, they do a financial analysis to close the project out. And this one's going to take $215. It's the Wagner Ranch HVAC project.
That's great.
We recommend that you approve it so we can close it out PSA.
He said easy.
Let's do it.
That's dollar amount I've seen already.
Any discussion? No. Any public
No public comment on this one.
Up for action.
This is Eve. I move that we approve the invoice from GGS for project closeout for the Wagner Branch ES HVAC project.
This is Katie, I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you. Tara Faith statement oversight.
Statement, woo-hoo, yeah. You might recall in a previous board meeting, we approved Terraphase to do testing at different locations where we're going to be doing the bond work. They're looking for lead paint, asbestos, all that. They came up with the survey, how it goes. We get the project rolling. Now there's abatement contractor on board. Terraphase has to come out and analyze their work plan and then also oversee the actual abatement work. So that's what this is for this phase that we're doing this summer. They're doing the abatement monitoring and clearance and then all the closeout documents associated with it. So their proposal is for $156,068 to do this work. They do have verbiage in here for any additional work. When they do the abatement survey, they're doing the areas that they feel need to get done. Sometimes that work will expand as needed, as field conditions might occur. In which case, they'll be coming back and saying, okay, this is what we're doing. What we're currently entertaining is kind of stretching. We're working long hour days there. They're looking to try and accommodate that and take some of the weekend days away to minimize any potential overage from this $156,000. They're a good company to kind of work with and very collaborative. It's nice to see. So the recommendations to approve this.
Thank you. Any
So
discussion?
this is just for the 3 school sites that are closed for this summer, so we will have to do this again next year.
Yeah, they can't really go for next year because they
I
haven't
just
done the
want that to be
survey
clear
yet.
that it's not.
Yeah.
I'm just curious why OAS has a different abatement contractor than Delray and Glorieta.
It's the subcontractors. So it's the contractors that are working under Rodan.
Mm-hmm.
One of the issues we had when Rodan was doing the HVAC work is we ran into issues, the fact that they had one mechanical contractor, they had one electrical contractor. There was an obvious manpower issue when they were doing that work. This is one of the things that we talked about when we were putting together the lease back, is to make sure that we weren't going to run into that issue. So this is basically Rodan accounting for that. It's not all one contractor that needs to be at 3 different sites. If you happen to drive by or see the sites
Oh,
today,
yes.
it's
Yeah.
evident. It's evident. And a side note, I welcome any of the board members who would like to do a walk around. Please let me know. I'll get some hard hats and I'll show you what's going on.
Now that
It's really something to see.
Now that the fences
Well,
are
this one-
never, have you had any community pushback or just, people?
Not so much community pushback. They want to get on the sports fields.
Yeah.
Delray, for example, we looked at ways that we could try and accommodate that, but that one walkway comes and it brings it right to where the staging area is for three of the 4 contractors working there. It just didn't work. So it's not major pushback. I mean, you're not going to make everybody happy. We tried to get word out there well ahead. I put notices up. This is going to be happening, and so day one, it's been okay.
Thank you.
So we recommend approval of this.
Any public comment?
No.
This is up for action.
This is Hillary. I recommend the board approve the proposal for Terraphase Engineering. Sorry.
This is really nice.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, Stuart.
Welcome.
Board policies.
Yes, we're recommending all board policies be approved as one, all except for, well, actually, all of them were recommended by CSBA for approval and changes. But in addition to CSBA recommendations, the cell phone policy or the mobile communication devices, which is under C, was updated with some of our own local recommendations. And there was a typo changed. Letter T was missing in that. So we recommend approval of the policies for implementation with the following school year.
All right, thank you. Any Discussion? All right, any public comment? No. All right, I can have a motion, please.
This is Hillary. I move that the board approve board policies 10B through F. This is Katie, I second.
All in favor? Aye. They carry. OEA.
Well, again, Charles Shannon, President of the Orinda Education Association. On behalf of the Orinda Education Association, I want to express our sincere appreciation for all of the presentations tonight. Very thorough, thank you. Superintendent Glimmy, your comprehensive overview of the 25-26 LCAP was incredibly valuable. Thank you, it's a great process. We, as educators, look forward to continued collaboration on the successful implementation, particularly in the areas directly impacting educators and students. So we're always committed to that. Yeah. And Mrs. Acosta Laundry, again, I just want to extend, I did send you an email tonight, my appreciation of your detailed presentation of the literacy screener adoption, just your ability to bring us together and to do that and have a screener that's going to be really helpful to all of us here to do our very best for literacy, because we really embrace that. That's a true hallmark of this district is our kids are extremely literate, and it's because of all the work that we do. So thank you. As we conclude another school year, I want to acknowledge the tireless dedication of our Orinda educators. Their professionalism and commitment are the bedrock of the district's excellence. Along with our staff, we so appreciate without them, we wouldn't be able to do the work that we do. So we appreciate them as well. OEA strongly values the retention of our experienced and dedicated educators, recognizing their profound impact on student success and stability, school stability. So looking ahead, OEA remains committed to open dialogue and collaboration with all of the board, with the community, with the superintendent, all the directors and staff. And we want to remain a place where our students thrive and our educators are valued and supported. We appreciate it. And we just want to continue that open dialogue. We know how important it is for that relationship to be able to do our very best. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'll be going early tonight. Again, it's not about me, but my partner's waiting at Starbucks that closed. Decided not to take the bus home. So I'll be on my way to go pick him up. But thanks again.
Thank you. Thanks.
We have a very busy week, but we'll give our updates maybe next Monday on how the week went.
Yeah. Okay, great. Board updates, report.
Last week, we attended the OIS promotion ceremony, which was very lovely and a lot cooler than it was last year, and I think a lot cooler than the Miramani graduation was the next day. But the speeches and everything was really nice. And then, I attended some of the 5th grade ceremonies at Delray, but just because I have a kiddo that is, and I no longer have any more elementary school kids, so it's bittersweet, but anyway.
OIS promotion, I mean, it's always such a wonderful celebration of our students, and I thought everybody did a really nice job with that. And yes, Miramon and I had a graduating senior, so very, just busy time. I'm sure there was other things that I did that were board related, but it's just a busy time. So can't believe the school year's over.
I think my biggest one since the last meeting was the Wagner Ranch visit, campus, and I have lots of elementary school students.
To make up for the
I think since the last meeting, I was at a mayor's liaison meeting, which they're really well attended recently, the ones that I've been to this year, which was great. And there's a lot of information shared about the city. I was at the 2x2 with Etta weeks ago now, I can't remember. Also a productive meeting and always good to get together. And then the OAS promotion was really lovely, and thanks to everybody who pulled that off and made it a really good event. Stuart, I know your team did a lot of work there. So thanks, I think it's great.
Yeah, 2x2 and OIS promotion ceremony. It's very lovely, and it's nice to shake all those students. And a lot of very strong handshakes.
That's good.
Yeah, but
That's great. Okay.
And then we have a complete calendar. We have items B through I.
Yes, and there's contracts within as we
Mhm.
done in the last couple of meetings.
Any comments or discussion?
No public comment.
Sorry, need a motion.
This is Hillary. I move that the board approve the consent calendar, items 12B through 12I.
This is Amy by second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All pass. And future agenda items.
Yeah, so we have one meeting left, and that's really bringing back the LCAP and budget for the action, and then we'll bring the board meeting schedule for action as well. So that's really the 3 meetings. We may have some policies and some consent items, but that's about it.
Great.
Is the 25-26 school calendar on our
Yes,
website?
it is on a quick links, and now we'll replace it on the
I
main
have-
link.
Okay, so I
Yeah.
had somebody text me today.
No,
I
it's
know.
on the, but it's our quick links are very, oh, you're right.
I just had these goals to say,
Yeah,
I
so
know it's me perfect as well.
Got it. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And yeah, so that's really for that one. And then there's a possibility of a special eventually, and we'll work on that with the board next week.
Thank you. All right, and we come to adjournment.
Hillary, I move that we adjourn.
Ms. Katie, I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passes. You adjourn.
Thank you.